Hello and welcome to the Science for Sleepy. Tonight we wander gently into a soft-lit observatory beneath the stars, a world of velvet shadows and humming machines. The windows are round like eyes half-lidded in thought, and the moon rests quiet on the dome's glass. Somewhere, a pendulum ticks slowly in the corner, counting not hours, but the soft pulses of curiosity. And in the centre of this night-bound room, a single desk, dimly lit, and a mug of tea still warm beside an open notebook. If you're enjoying this quiet journey through curiosity and time, consider subscribing. There's always more to explore, gently. We'd love to know your location and time zone in the comments. Tonight, we begin at the beginning, with a question simple and eternal. Why do we sleep at all? Outside, the world turns quietly. Above, the stars remain steady. But beneath your skin, your breath slows, your eyelids begin to weigh, and a signal pulses in the base of your brain. A cue, ancient and absolute. Rest now. Let go. Imagine the world in darkness before clocks or calendars, when sleep was simply the slow surrender of the day. Even then, long before science dared to ask why, sleep always came. It was never optional. Even the strongest body, the most determined mind, eventually folded under its spell. So what is sleep? Not simply rest, not an absence of wakefulness. No, sleep is its own state, with structure, stages, secrets. You drift not into emptiness, but into something active, intricate, essential. Within the folds of your sleeping brain, patterns rise and fall. Brainwaves change shape like ocean currents. Your body cools, muscles slacken, eyes flicker behind closed lids like dancers beneath a curtain, and somewhere, maybe just moments from now, a dream will begin to bloom. But before we float there, we must understand what carries us, the sleep cycle itself. It is not one long descent into darkness, but a looping journey, a spiral staircase through the night. The sleepy scientist, that quiet figure in the corner scribbling notes in lamplight, leans back and hums. Sleep is not one thing, it is many. And he is right. We pass through stages. Light sleep first, the drifting stage, when your body is still half listening to the world. Then deeper, slow wave sleep, where repair begins, memories consolidate, and muscles truly rest. And then, like a sudden hush before music returns, REM, rapid eye movement, the stage where dreams arise. We cycle through these stages again and again throughout the night, about every 90 minutes, though each cycle is slightly different. In early sleep, slow-wave rest dominates. Later, REM stretches longer, richer, stranger. It's in the second half of the night that dreams grow vivid, layered narrative. But all of this rhythm, depends on something hidden and ancient, your circadian clock. Buried deep in the hypothalamus, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, just 20,000 tiny neurons, keeps the beat of your inner day. It listens to sunlight, whispers to hormones, and decides when sleep should pull you under. When evening falls, melatonin begins its slow drip, like an ink drop in water, spreading through your body. Your pulse slows, your temperature drops, and your brain begins to turn inward, like a tide pulling away from the shore. Even now in this story, we are mirroring that drift. The more we speak of sleep, the closer we draw to its edge. Close your eyes for a moment, just one, and imagine yourself lying on a raft, afloat on the quietest lake. The sky above is lavender and cloudless. There are no footsteps, no voices, only the hush of water, the cool of night, the gentle motion of breath. This is where the science begins, and yet it is also where science begins to surrender, because for all we know about sleep, its stages, its cycles, its timing. The reason we need it remains something of a mystery. It isn't simply to save energy. A sleeping body burns more than a resting one. It isn't just for the brain to clean house, though it does, washing itself with cerebrospinal fluid in ways we still barely understand. No, it seems sleep is not for one thing, but for everything. Memory, emotion, immunity, learning, creativity, mood, hormone balance, decision-making, and yes, even the birth of dreams. The sleepy scientist lifts his gaze from the notebook and peers into a softly glowing screen. A brain scan flickers in blues and golds. Neural activity rises like waves in the deep. He murmurs without looking up, "It's not just rest, it's renewal." Outside, the stars remain. Inside, the observatory begins to hum, a low lullaby rhythm of machines monitoring the night. And in the next room, you sleep. You, with sensors gently placed on your temples and chest. You, in a white linen bed, your breath already beginning to deepen. And as your first cycle begins, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, we will follow. In time, we'll arrive at REM. In time, the dream will begin. But for now, we simply sink. Just as the moon slips beneath the sea and the tide hushes the shore, you drift into the architecture of the sleeping brain. And so, we continue. The brain does not fall asleep all at once. It glides, slowly. Like a lantern slipping beneath the surface of still water, light fading in ripples. The outer edges of awareness fall first, a soft blur around your senses. Then the center, folding in like petals at dusk. But deep inside, the rhythm never stops. This is the silent timetable of your sleep, a circuit of stages more precise than any clock. We're now inside it, watching, listening. You lie quietly in a pale room. Wires trace your scalp like vines, connected to a screen where colored lines move steadily, each line a story, each pulse a signal. The sleepy scientist leans closer. No clipboard, no questions, only stillness and the soft hum of monitors. There, your first descent. From wakefulness into stage 1, a brief, drowsy doorway. Muscles loosen, your thoughts begin to stutter, not stop. You might imagine a step misjudged, a sudden fall, the hypnic jerk. A spark from your waking self as it releases its grip. Stage 2 follows, light sleep, yet deeper. Here, something magical begins to occur. Sleep spindles. Imagine them as tiny whirlwinds of brain activity, bursts of oscillations lasting less than 2 seconds, but vital. They appear suddenly, then vanish. Not dreams, not yet, but guardians, protectors of sleep, filtering the world outside, keeping you wrapped in stillness. Another pattern joins them, K-complexes, single, sharp waves, responses to noise or touch, but softened, allowing the brain to decide whether to wake or to ignore. You remain floating, untouched, and then deeper. Stage 3, slow wave sleep, delta sleep. The brainwaves now grow tall and slow, like long grass swaying in the dark. It is here that the body repairs, tissues rebuild, the immune system strengthens, hormones regulate. If sleep were a house, this would be its foundation. Strong, silent, absolute. But even this depth does not last forever. Soon, the cycle turns, and something stirs. Your breath shallows, heartbeat quickens, the brainwaves change again, faster, more chaotic. Eyes dart beneath closed lids, a dance unseen. You have reached REM, rapid eye movement, a paradox. The body still, muscles paralyzed, yet the mind more active than ever. Here, the world behind your eyes begins to unfold. You may be dreaming now, or perhaps not yet. But the stage is set. In REM, the brain mimics waking. The same regions light up: visual cortex, limbic system, even the prefrontal cortex, though dimmer. It is as if the brain is rehearsing reality, sculpting fiction from fragments. This stage repeats throughout the night, growing longer with each cycle. In early sleep, REM may last only minutes, but by dawn, it may stretch to nearly an hour. Cycle after cycle, light sleep, deep sleep, REM. The pattern continues. Most adults complete 4 to 6 cycles a night, each around 90 minutes. But the borders blur. Stress may fragment the rhythm. Illness may pull you out too soon, and some never reach REM at all. Yet even disrupted, the brain tries again and again. It is not just routine, it is persistence, a deep cellular memory, an instinct encoded across millions of years. The sleepy scientist, still seated in a quiet room, opens a drawer and removes a diagram, an ancient scroll, drawn by hand, marking the phases of night. We've always known, somehow, that sleep moves like a tide, that we rise and fall within it, that something waits below. What waits is not merely dreams, not yet, but the conditions for them. Because REM is not just about images, it is about readiness. Here, the brain rehearses emotions, strengthens memories, regulates learning, sorts, selects, releases. You may wake and remember none of it, but inside the architecture remains, each spindle, each wave, each cycle building the scaffold for a hidden world. And so we drift, quietly aware now that every night the brain follows a path both ancient and deeply personal, and you follow it too, even now, beneath this narration, your own rhythm playing out in silence. This is the brain's secret timetable. No bells, no chimes, only the hush of stages unfolding like petals, and at the heart of it all the next doorway opens, to REM, to vision, to the place where dream begins. In the stillness of REM, something remarkable begins. A flicker, a shape, a scene from nowhere, or perhaps from somewhere very old. You're no longer in the lab, not in your bed, not in this world. You stand in a field of tall grass beneath a violet sky. The wind moves like breath across the earth. There is no path, but you walk. No question, yet you search. This is the doorway of dreams. It opens without sound, without warning. One moment the brain rests in rhythm, eyes closed, body paralyzed, mind alight with static. And the next, a story begins. A world assembles itself. How? That is the question the sleepy scientist has asked for years, whispering it into machines, scanning the night for answers. What flips that switch? What takes the firing of neurons and turns it into landscapes, characters, memories, visions that feel as real as waking? In REM sleep, certain brain areas ignite. The visual cortex blazes with activity. The amygdala, seat of emotion, pulses like a drum. Even the hippocampus, our memory's archivist, hums softly in its chamber. But the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic, self-awareness, doubt, dims. And this perhaps is why the impossible becomes acceptable, why a hallway can stretch for miles, why a friend may have the face of someone lost long ago, why you can breathe underwater and never once question it. You're no longer bound to the rules of waking. Gravity can bend, time can fold, even death means nothing here, and still the dream feels real. Neuroscientists once believed dreams were nothing more than byproducts, static from the brain's nightly maintenance. But now we know better. REM is not noise, it is narrative, and narrative takes shape for a reason. Theories drift through the scientific air like dust motes in a beam of light. Some suggest dreams help rehearse danger, simulations to prepare us for survival. Others believe they are the playground of emotion, a place where feelings resolve themselves through metaphor and movement. Some see dreams as memory editors, trimming, stitching, remixing what we've seen and felt, and others still, though gently, humbly, wonder if dreams are more than function, if perhaps they are a gift, a side effect of a mind vast enough to imagine. Whatever their purpose, dreams begin in REM, but REM is not uniform. The first REM cycle of the night may bring only fragments, flashes of light, disconnected images, brief moments of strangeness. But by the third or fourth cycle, something changes. The dream becomes immersive. You feel the floor beneath your feet. You taste a memory from childhood. You argue with someone who no longer lives, and the argument matters. The brain is building a world using pieces of your life, but it builds without a blueprint. It combines memories with fiction, emotions with narrative, imagination with the architecture of experience. Think of it like this. The hippocampus provides the raw material, scenes, faces, settings. The amygdala layers emotional tone. The visual cortex renders it into vision. And somewhere, the narrative mind strings it all together like beads on a thread. But the thread is loose. There are no knots, jumps, pauses. In dreams, you can leap from one place to another without crossing the distance. The sleepy scientist once called it emotional geography, not where you go, but how it feels. Dreams do not move through space, they move through meaning. And so, you might find yourself standing in a room you haven't seen in years, the furniture wrong, the light familiar, the mood unmistakable. It may not matter what happens, only that it happens to you, and that you remember briefly before it fades. Because dreams are fragile, they vanish quickly. The chemicals of REM do not support memory well. When you wake, the gates close. Within minutes, even the most vivid dream becomes mist, unless you catch it, hold it, write it down. The sleepy scientist has journals stacked ceiling high, decades of dreams recorded at dawn. He believes that dreaming is not rare, but remembering is, that we all dream, every night, in REM, even if we carry nothing back. Now, you stir, not in waking, but in the dream. You hear your name spoken by someone who never existed. You see a door open to a place that cannot be. You walk through, and the dream continues. The story unfolds. Meanwhile, the machines watch. The scientist listens, and in the folds of your cortex the mystery deepens. The doorway is open. We do not yet know what lies at its farthest edge, but we are inside it now, and we will go further. In the darkness behind your eyes, something luminous dances. It is not light, not exactly. It is a kind of silent fire, neurons firing, thousands at once in a hidden ballet. You're still asleep, still deep in REM, and inside your brain there is motion, not random, not wild, but rhythmic. It begins in the pons, a small ancient part of the brainstem. Here, the REM orchestra cues up. Bursts of activity are sent upward, toward the thalamus, which relays the signals to the cortex. This cascade lights up your inner world. Imagine neurons as tiny sparks, delicate but insistent. Now imagine those sparks not scattered, but choreographed. They pulse in spirals, waves, clusters. This is not chaos. It is an encoded language. A code not of logic, but of sensation, of story. A pattern begins to emerge. The brain is constructing the dream from within itself, not from the outside world, not from sound or sight, but from memory, emotion, association. It is not assembling a puzzle. It is setting off fireworks. The frontal cortex watches quietly, dimmed for the night, surrendering its grip. It does not interfere. It does not demand order. Instead, it allows the show to unfold. In this state, strange connections are possible. A red balloon becomes a lost apology. A hallway leads to a childhood decision. A song plays, and the lyrics are made of things you've never said aloud. The dream uses what it finds. It has no boundaries. A single neuron may fire in response to a face, another to a smell, others to a concept, abstract, invisible. And somehow, these neurons don't just activate individually. They link, they resonate, they create networks in real time. This is the strange magic of the sleeping brain. It does not rest. It reconfigures. The scientist, watching quietly from the edge of the room, adjusts the amplifier. On the monitor, jagged waves dance across the screen. Each spike has meaning, though we do not know what. Are these moments of imagery, of memory, of narrative coherence? We cannot yet say, but the patterns are real, and they are vast. One cluster may represent a dream of running, another a dream of falling, another still a place you've never been but somehow know, and between them, silence, brief, like breath. These silent intervals are not empty. They are transitions, moments when the dream shifts scene, tone, or texture, moments when the mind decides, without your knowledge, to move elsewhere. It is not random. In sleep labs across the world, researchers see these bursts again and again. They call them PGO waves, signals that begin in the pons, travel to the lateral geniculate nucleus, and end in the occipital lobe. PGO, pons, geniculate, occipital. It is a path, a loop, a closed circuit. And when this path activates, the dream ignites. The visual system flares. Even in darkness, you see without eyes. And more than that, you feel what you see. Because the limbic system is active too, especially the amygdala, the center of emotion. This is why dreams are rarely neutral. They are colored by feeling, wonder, dread, grief, ecstasy. The sleepy scientist leans back in his chair, eyes closed, and murmurs, "Every neuron that fires in sleep fires for a reason, even if we don't yet know it." Back in the dream, you walk a hallway where the floor is made of clouds. You remember someone's voice. You open a book and forget how to read, but you feel it, every part. The brain is not replaying your life, it is remixing it. And this remix is not waste, it is practice, it is healing. It is a spark in the dark that says, this is still part of you. What we see on EEGs, the spikes and valleys, the cascades, they tell us the dream is active, but they cannot tell us what it means. And yet, we keep listening, hoping the patterns will reveal themselves. Perhaps, in time, they will. But for now, we marvel at this secret performance done in total silence, this midnight festival of sparks and meaning, this choreography of neurons that paint stories behind your eyes. The dream continues. Your brain, without effort, builds more, color, place, people, plot, and the patterns shift again. A new wave begins. The dream continues, but it begins to take shape now, not just as flickers or symbols, but as a kind of theatre. And you are both audience and actor. You're walking through a house that doesn't belong to you, yet every room is familiar. A photograph moves when you blink. A voice calls from a room that no longer exists in waking life. These are not random scenes, not noise, they're rehearsals, reconstructions, memory on a stage. Because dreams are not just experiences, they are performances of memory, and the brain is the playwright, the cast, the lighting crew, and the curtain all at once. Here, in REM sleep, the hippocampus and neocortex engage in a delicate exchange. The hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped archivist, holds memories that are still fresh. What happened yesterday, what you learned, who you spoke to. But during sleep, it begins a handoff to the neocortex, to long-term storage, to the part of your brain that keeps the past. And this process, this memory consolidation, is not sterile. It's not a download, it's a rehearsal, a play rewritten night after night until the script feels like it's always been there. The sleepy scientist watches this process unfold on screen. Slow waves and fast ripples, looping rhythms between two parts of the brain that never speak so clearly while you're awake. A dream of riding a bike through a glowing city might contain the movements you practiced earlier that day. A dream of losing your way in a forest might echo a conversation you had, buried in meaning. But the dream doesn't replay these events. It bends them, tests them, embeds them into other stories. This is not just remembering, it is integration. Think of memory like a library. Each dream is a librarian walking through the stacks, moving books, tearing pages, combining titles. Not disorder, but redesign. So that when you wake, your memories aren't just stored, they're reorganized, strengthened. Studies have shown that people perform better on complex tasks after dreaming, especially those involving creativity, puzzles, emotional insight. And that's because during REM sleep, the brain isn't just remembering, it's reweaving. Threads of fact and fiction cross and recross, creating new patterns. Connections form that weren't obvious before, and you wake with a new idea, a different feeling, a shift in understanding. Even if you don't recall the dream, the shift remains. The emotional tone, the quiet clarity, the solution that seems to arrive from nowhere. But we know now, it arrived from the dream. Dreams also help us forget. Not every memory deserves to stay. The brain is selective, and during sleep, especially REM, irrelevant details are pruned away. Your dream may include a grocery store you barely noticed yesterday, not because it mattered, but because it didn't. The brain discards it, dressed in metaphor. A strange goodbye. The scientist calls this the memory stage. Not because memories are replayed, but because they are transformed. Emotionally charged memories, especially fear, grief, embarrassment, are gently processed in REM. The amygdala lights up, but the stress chemicals are low. You dream of the hard thing, but safely. This is dream therapy. Unconscious, invisible, but very real. You may wake and feel lighter, though you can't say why. You may wake and remember the dream in fragments, or not at all. It doesn't matter. The work is done. Inside that silent theatre, the brain rewrote something, added light to the shadow, built a bridge between feeling and fact, and all while you floated. Some dreams are louder. You may wake with your heart racing or in tears or laughing, but others are subtle, like a breeze shifting direction, and they still matter, still move you, because dreams are where memories go to become meaning. Not all of them survive, but the ones that do, they're stronger, clearer, more deeply yours. Back in the lab, the sleepy scientist writes quietly in the margins of a notebook. Dreams don't store data, they store relevance. And perhaps that's true, because the brain is not a machine, it's a story engine, and in sleep, in REM, the story continues, night after night. Your memories become characters, your emotions, dialogue, your fears, the plot. And when you wake, you carry not just information or a perspective. The dream gave shape to something inside you, and that shape is now part of you, The curtains close, the scene ends, but the play, the process, continues. The curtain has fallen on one scene, but you remain asleep, still drifting, still immersed, still inside the flickering world behind your eyes. But something is changing, a ripple through the dream, a sensation, not of falling, but of being watched. You are aware, and that awareness is strange, because you are dreaming, and you know it. This is the threshold between sleep and wake, the blurry line where the mind begins to recognize itself within the illusion. Welcome to lucid dreaming. In this rare state, something astonishing occurs. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, usually quiet in REM, sparks to life. Self-awareness returns. Logic slips a toe into the water, and suddenly, within your dream, you know, this is not real, but I am still here. You may fly, change the landscape, speak with shadows and watch them respond, but not everyone can stay long. Lucidity is delicate. Too much awareness and the spell breaks. You wake, or fall back into the deeper current. But even this brief moment is remarkable, because it reveals that the dreaming mind is not a prisoner of fantasy. It can, under rare conditions, become its own guide. Yet lucidity is only one of the strange states at sleep's edge. There are others, some darker, some silent, some terrifying. Sleep paralysis, a visitor from the oldest folklore and a well-documented phenomenon. You're waking or falling asleep. You're aware of your surroundings. You try to move, but you cannot. The body is frozen. The rematonia, the muscle paralysis that keeps us from acting out our dreams, has not yet lifted. And for a moment, you're trapped. Eyes open, mind alert, body still as stone. Some feel pressure on the chest, a presence in the room, a voice, a shadow. The scientist calls it hypnopompic hallucination. But for the person in the grip of it, names mean little. It feels real. The brain, half in REM and half awake, projects images into waking space. Dreams bleed into reality. The walls ripple. Time stutters. You're neither here nor there, but it passes. Always. Sleep paralysis is frightening, but it's a sign that the dreaming and waking systems are more intertwined than we realize. The line between sleep and consciousness is not a cliff. It's a shoreline, and some of us walk that shore nightly. Then there are the false awakenings. You wake, you sit up, brush your teeth, walk to the kitchen. But something's off. The light bends wrong. The clock melts. Your reflection speaks back, and you realize you're still dreaming. The dreamers mimicked waking so precisely that your mind believed it, until the seams began to show. The prefrontal cortex flickered, briefly, and with it, the curtain lifted. These false awakenings can loop. You wake again, and again, each time convinced it's real. The scientist notes these phenomena with fascination, not just because they're curious, but because they suggest something profound, that our sense of self, our belief in realness, is more fragile than we think, that consciousness can exist without waking, that a dream can contain awareness and still be a dream. Even in sleepwalking, a behavior from non-REM sleep, the body can act without full awareness. You may rise, move through the house, open a door, eyes open, expression blank. But you are not awake. You are elsewhere. And when you return, when the systems realign, you remember nothing. Sleep is not a singular experience. It is a spectrum, a realm of many thresholds, many in-between states. And on these edges, strange things happen. The brain slips, catches, creates moments that defy easy explanation. But perhaps that is the point. Sleep is not meant to be understood in waking terms. It is its own language. a tongue of rhythm, image, emotion. And when we touch its boundaries, when we wake within it, or sleep while moving, we glimpse how flexible the mind truly is. We're not fixed creatures. We do not live in binaries, on or off, wake or sleep. We float, we flicker, we cross thresholds constantly. The sleepy scientist gently presses pause on a video file, a sleepwalker descending stairs, graceful as a ghost. He scribbles something in the margin of his notes. The sleeping brain is not unconscious, it is unanchored, and that unanchored mind takes us places waking thought cannot follow. In lucid dreams we may fly, in sleep paralysis we face our demons, in false awakenings we question reality itself, and in sleepwalking we become our own phantom. Not all of it is comfortable, but all of it is real. Real in the sense that it happens and shapes us. And so the dream continues, now tinged with awareness, with curiosity, with echoes of edges we've crossed before. We return to it deeper now as the body relaxes and the night carries us forward. The dream world is rich and strange, but behind its vivid landscape something quieter flows. A chemical stream, slow and unseen. You don't feel it, not directly, but it governs everything. The depth of your sleep, the shape of your dreams, the hue of your emotions. Welcome to the chemical garden of the sleeping brain. Imagine walking through a midnight greenhouse, glass ceilings fogged with breath, moonlight caught in the petals of unseen flowers. Each plant glows faintly, pulsing with colour. These are the neurotransmitters, tiny messengers, silent gardeners. They rise and fall through your brain each night, cultivating the landscape of your dreams. We begin with serotonin. During wakefulness, it flows steadily, keeping mood balanced, thoughts level. But as sleep begins, serotonin ebbs. It steps back, and something else takes its place. Acetylcholine. It rises sharply during REM. This is the neurotransmitter of activation, of attention, and in dreaming, of vision. It sparks the cortex into motion, painting scenes in vivid colour. Without acetylcholine, REM would remain a shadow. With it, dreams burst into bloom. Then there is norepinephrine, a chemical of alertness, vigilance, readiness. But in REM, norepinephrine disappears, vanished. This chemical silence is key, because without norepinephrine, there is no urgency, no anxiety. Even the most intense dream feels strange but distant. You're submerged, but not panicked. You're moving through storms, but calmly. It is a mercy built into the design. The sleepy scientist turning a yellowed page in an old journal notes. REM is emotional rehearsal without the sting, and it's true. The amygdala is active, you feel. But the stress response is dialed down. The brain gives you the image, the sensation, but not the shock. Then, dopamine, the molecule of pleasure, of reward, but also of movement, attention, dreaming. In REM, dopamine levels shift, not uniformly. Some parts of the brain light up, others dim. It's part of what gives dreams their vividness, their sometimes surreal quality. Too little dopamine, and dreams become flat, grey, fragmented. Too much, and dreams become intense, strange, even hallucinatory. The balance is delicate. There are others too. GABA, the inhibitory one, which calms the brain, quiets the muscles. It holds your body still while your mind runs wild. It is the soft hand that says, stay. Glycine helps too in the spinal cord, ensuring your arms don't act out what your dream self does. This is REM-atonia, the great stillness. Muscles paralyzed but not frozen, just held gently. This chemical ballet shifts as the night deepens. In the first sleep cycles, slow wave sleep dominates. low acetylcholine, high serotonin. But later, REM expands. Acetylcholine surges, the balance tilts, and with it, the dreams grow stranger, richer, longer. It is as if the garden blooms most wildly just before dawn. What we call sleep is not uniform. It is a sequence of chemical states, each with its own logic, its own story, and you are the traveller, the dreamer, the one moving through these invisible biomes, guided not by will, but by chemistry. The sleepy scientist sits in his chair holding a tiny vial up to the light, a sample of cerebrospinal fluid collected during the night. Inside it, clues, ratios, traces of the molecules that shaped your sleep. He studies them not as formulas, but as footprints, the tracks left behind by your unconscious self as it wandered through the dark. You do not command these chemicals, they guide you, softly, precisely. And if something disturbs them, a medication, a stress, a disorder, the dream changes, the rhythm shifts, the world inside becomes less clear. That's why sleep is sacred, not just because it restores you, but because it allows this garden to thrive. Each night a chemical symphony plays, no conductor, just rhythm, memory, emotion, and from it dreams rise. You walk through them unaware of the chemistry below, and yet it carries you. Now, as the REM cycle reaches its peak, acetylcholine glows like a lantern in the fog. The dream brightens. You speak with someone long lost. You open a door into sky. You forget you are asleep, but the garden keeps blooming, silently, perfectly, until the cycle turns again. A storm gathers, not outside but inside the dream. You feel it in your chest before you see it, a low vibration, a flicker behind thought. Then it arrives, sudden, surreal, emotional. You're still asleep, still locked in REM. But now the dream is no longer just movement or memory. Now it pulses with feeling, fear, joy, grief, wonder. Dreams speak in emotion more than language. They rise not from logic but from the deep heart of the brain. And at the center of this storm, the amygdala. This almond-shaped structure nestled in the temporal lobe is ancient, older than reason, older than speech. It is the gatekeeper of emotion, especially fear, threat, sorrow, desire. And during REM sleep, the amygdala glows, not faintly, not randomly. It lights up as if the dream were a fire that needed tending. Why? Because REM is emotional processing. The mind is not idly wandering. It's working through what you felt today, yesterday, years ago. Even feelings without names. Feelings you couldn't say aloud. The ones you buried. Now, in the dark, they surface, but softly, through symbols, through metaphor. You dream of a collapsing bridge and feel a panic that has nothing to do with bridges. You dream of losing your keys, but it's not about keys, it's about something lost. The brain does not replay your life, it renders the emotional shape of it. Scientists have found that the limbic system, including the amygdala and anterior cingulate cortex, is far more active in REM than in waking life, even more than during vivid memory. This means that your dream emotions are not weaker than waking ones. They are often stronger. You may cry in dreams, laugh, shout, but wake without sound, motionless, because the body remains still. The storm stays inside, yet it has moved through you, and that matters. The sleepy scientist turns a dial, switching from one scan to another. He sees the telltale glow of an active amygdala, and beside it, something curious. The prefrontal cortex, quiet, no judgment, no analysis. So the emotions flow freely, but without critique. This is why dreams often feel profound but unexplainable. You feel the weight of them, but not the why. You wake with a sense of sadness, but no scene to match it. You wake with joy, but can't remember the moment. This is normal. The emotion remains. The story fades. Dreams do not document your feelings. They metabolize them, reshape them, prepare you for another day, and the brain seems to prefer metaphor over fact. You may never dream directly of your real grief, but it may appear as a flooding house, a missed train, a silent call. Because the sleeping brain does not need clarity, it needs release. Some dreams are gentle. They soothe, caress, wrap the day in silk. Others are intense, stormy, frightening, full of tension. But even nightmares serve a function. They may be the brain's way of safely exploring danger, processing trauma, preparing you for future threats without actual harm. This theory is called the threat simulation hypothesis, and it fits, because even in fear, you are protected, the body still, the dream contained. Emotionally intense dreams often correlate with waking resolution. You dream of the thing that haunts you, and afterward feel less haunted, even without remembering. This sleeping mind is not just a canvas, it's an emotional workshop, and dreams are its raw material. The scientist writes in a notebook, hand steady, eyes soft. Emotion is not noise in the dream, it is structure, and he is right. Emotion determines which memories surface, how they combine, what shapes the dream takes. Dreams are not puzzles, they are tides, and emotion is the moon. Now, as you sleep, the tide pulls harder. A dream washes over you, a voice you miss, a fear half remembered, a moment you never lived but still feel, and you let it pass. Because this is the work of REM, the labour of sleep, the quiet choreography of your emotional self, moving in the dark. We are deep in the night now. The outside world is hushed, your body is still, and your mind is very far from where it began. You are dreaming, fully immersed, but the dream itself has shifted. It is no longer just memory, or image, or feeling. Now, it is a problem, a pattern, a riddle wrapped in strangeness, and your sleeping mind is trying to solve it. This is the puzzle of purpose. Why do we dream? For centuries humans have wondered. Theories have bloomed and withered like moonflowers. Some say dreams are accidental, the brain's attempt to make sense of meaningless neural noise. Others see function everywhere, emotion regulation, memory sorting, creative insight. And then there's the question that sits gently in the scientist's lap like a sleeping cat. Do dreams help us think? He believes they do, and he's not alone. In sleep labs and quiet corners of cognition research, patterns are emerging, evidence that dreams are not idle. They're investigative. The dreaming mind explores problems the waking mind can't. During REM sleep, the brain behaves differently. It loosens its grip on logic. It removes the gatekeepers. It allows associations that daylight thought would dismiss. And in that looseness, in that freedom, solutions appear. You may wake with an idea you didn't know you had, a melody, a sentence, a feeling that suddenly fits. Artists, scientists, inventors, many have traced their breakthroughs to dreams. Mary Shelley's Monster, Paul McCartney's Yesterday, Kekule's Benzene Ring. These stories may be romantic, but they hint at something true, that dreams open a different kind of mind, not sharper, but deeper, stranger. REM sleep enhances associative networks, those webs that connect ideas across categories. So when you dream, you may link a bird to a mirror, a door to a question, a stranger's face to a long ago sound. These links aren't always useful, but some are brilliant. The scientist watches a recording, a sleeping subject, twitching slightly, the EEG alive with REM waves. He knows this person is doing something, not moving, not remembering, but processing, unraveling, solving. Perhaps you are too, right now. You're dreaming of climbing a staircase that leads nowhere and then stepping off, into the sky, into water, into something. And when you wake, a choice that felt impossible now feels less so. The dream didn't give you an answer, but it rearranged the question. That is the dream's quiet genius. Not instruction, but orientation. Not logic, but reframing. There's a theory called the continual activation hypothesis. It proposes that dreaming keeps the brain's circuits primed for flexibility, especially in dealing with uncertainty. In this view, dreams are exercises, mental yoga, cognitive rehearsal, imaginary play. It makes sense. In dreams, we improvise constantly. We adapt to bizarre events. We accept contradictions. We explore without consequence. This is the opposite of waking logic, but it's not inferior, it's exploratory, and the brain loves to explore. The scientist smiles faintly, watching a model of a brain light up, regions connected in ways that waking thought wouldn't allow. This is not dysfunction, it's design. The dreaming brain does not care about accuracy, it cares about discovery, and in REM it finds paths, not straight ones, but meaningful. You dream of flying and wake with courage. You dream of forgetting and wake with clarity. You dream of a room with no exits and wake with a door in your hand. It doesn't make sense, but it works. Dreams may be the brain's way of running quiet simulations, trying things out, playing, rehearsing, letting go. You may never know what your dream was for. That's okay. Not all answers come in daylight form. Some arrive like whispers, long after the night has passed. And now, as the dream softens again, as the REM wave crests and begins to fall, you drift back into the spiral. The cycle turns, but something remains. A trace of a question you didn't know you'd asked. And the faint sense that maybe you've moved closer to its answer. We float onward. The REM cycle fades like a tide returning to sea, and once again the night reshapes itself. But not all dreamers dream the same. The landscapes of your inner world, the texture of dreams, the rhythms of sleep, they shift with age, like the rings inside a tree. Tonight, we drift through time, not through dream time, but through life. We begin in infancy, the very beginning. An infant sleeps more than it wakes, nearly 16 hours a day, though not in long stretches. The brain is still growing, still wiring itself together, and in that tiny skull something astonishing. REM sleep dominates. Almost half of a newborn's sleep is REM, more than adults, more even than toddlers. Why? Because REM isn't just about dreaming, it's about development. The infant brain needs stimulation, and in the absence of sight, speech, movement, it creates its own. REM may help shape neural pathways, forge sensory connections, build the foundation for imagination long before language arrives. We don't know if newborns dream, but their brains are rehearsing something vital. As we age, the pattern changes. Toddlers still dream, though we rarely remember those early dreams. They tend to be simple, often static. Animals, people, places, but not yet stories, not yet narrative. Then, in childhood, dreams take form. At around age 7, dreams gain a plot. You become a character in your own internal movie. You run, explore, fear, invent. and the themes begin to echo the waking world. Friends, fears, family, nightmares peak in these years. The mind, still learning boundaries, casts shadows long and strange, but also wonder, flying dreams, talking animals, endless adventure. These are the dreams of the early dreamer, loose, wild, full of magic. The sleepy scientist smiles at a recorded journal from a child, a dream about riding a cloud to school, meeting a turtle who spoke French. No function, no metaphor, just pure invention. Then comes adolescence. Here, dreams deepen, emotion intensifies, REM remains steady, but the tone of dreaming changes. Abstract thought appears. So do symbols, so do secrets. The adolescent dream becomes layered. Romance, fear of failure, identity, rebellion. Dreams reflect the storm inside, and into adulthood, dreams become more structured but often less vivid. Responsibilities intrude, schedules compress, sleep shortens, and with less sleep, less REM, less dreaming. But even in adulthood, dreams retain power. They still teach, still process, still surprise, and sometimes they return with force during stress, loss, love. Dreams respond, not on command, but with precision. You may not remember them, but they remember you. Then, in older age, things shift again. REM declines gradually. Dream recall diminishes. Sleep fragments. But dreaming continues, and sometimes it becomes even more symbolic, more reflective. A review of life, a soft mirror held in the dark. Some older adults report more frequent visitation dreams, of loved ones lost, of childhood homes, of journeys unfinished. These dreams are often gentle, not always joyful, but full of presence. The sleepy scientist walks slowly through the sleep lab's archive, rows of old dream journals decades deep. He pauses on one, written by a woman in her 90s, a dream of walking barefoot through snow but feeling no cold, of speaking to her younger self and listening. He underlines one line from her entry. She didn't say anything new, but I needed to hear it again. And perhaps that is what dreams offer us with age, not answers, but returns, reunions, reflection. Dreaming across time reveals not just how we change, but how our minds adapt. What you dream at 8 is not what you'll dream at 80, but both matter, both are truthful, and both are you. Dreams are not static phenomena. They evolve, mature, grow stranger, then perhaps gentler. Some fade, others remain vivid even decades later, but always they follow your rhythms, your seasons, your story. And tonight, you dream from the place you are now, with all you carry and all you've let go. The dream continues, and time within it dissolves again. Something shifts in the dream, a flicker, a presence. The soft glow that's coloured your sleep dims now, and shadows grow longer. The world behind your eyes sharpens into strange angles. You're still dreaming, but this is different. This is the dark corridor, the place where nightmares live. We all pass through it, some more often than others, some lightly, with only a chill, others again and again trapped in its loops. But no one sleeps untouched. Nightmares are not errors, they are messages, the kind the mind cannot deliver in daylight. Here, in REM sleep, your most vivid dreams unfold, and sometimes those dreams turn dark. You are running, but your feet won't move. You fall endlessly, but never land. You scream, but no sound comes. You wake with your heart racing, the dream still clinging to your skin like cold mist. This is not failure, it is function. The amygdala, that sentinel of emotion, is still active, perhaps too active now. REM sleep allows the brain to explore emotional material in a safer space, but sometimes that material overwhelms the system. Unresolved fear, unspoken grief, hidden guilt. Nightmares are how these things rise, not to punish, but to surface. The sleepy scientist calls them emotional flash fires, intense bursts that burn away psychic debris. And even when they frighten us, they often leave behind something valuable, a feeling processed, a trauma softened, a truth faced in metaphor. But not all nighttime terrors are born in REM. There are night terrors, different, stranger. They belong to deep, non-REM sleep, slow wave, stage 3. The person is not dreaming in the traditional sense. They may sit up, scream, sweat, fight unseen enemies, eyes wide, heart pounding, but they are not fully awake, and they won't remember. Night terrors are most common in children when the sleep architecture is still forming. They often fade with age, but in some, they linger. The brain, in these moments, is caught between systems, arousal and paralysis, wake and sleep. The dream has no imagery, only sensation, only the raw pulse of fear. Why does the brain allow this? Why such intensity? Some believe nightmares evolved as rehearsals for real threats, practice without consequence. The brain creates scenarios of danger, so the body and the mind can prepare. Others believe they serve emotional urgency, that when something must be faced, the brain finds a way to show it, again and again, until we listen. Recurring nightmares often circle a theme: being chased, falling, losing control, not literal fears but symbolic ones. The job we can't escape, the grief we didn't name, the secret we carry alone, and then there are trauma dreams. For those with PTSD, dreams do not soften the memory, they replay it. Vivid, exact, unrelenting. These are not metaphors, they are intrusions, and they teach us something important, that REM, for all its power, is not always restorative. Sometimes the emotional load exceeds its limits. Sometimes the mind cannot metabolize the weight. The sleepy scientist dims the lights in his lab. He reads a note from a veteran's dream journal. It's always the sound. I'm never there, but I hear it, every time. The brain remembers what matters most, and sound, raw, unfiltered, often lodges deeper than image. But the brain also heals, slowly, over time, with kindness. Dream therapy, lucid dreaming, targeted memory reprocessing. New tools are emerging. The dream is not just a mystery, it is a medicine. Even the nightmare has value, because after the storm passes the mind clears, not all at once, but in layers, and sometimes the dream changes. What chased you now speaks, what broke you now mends, what haunted you now leaves, not because you forced it, but because the mind, given space, moves toward resolution. And so we do not fear the dark corridor. We walk it gently, we honor the nightmare, and we listen. Now the dream shifts again. The shadows retreat. The body remains still. The night deepens, and the dream, lighter now, quieter, begins to breathe again. Still asleep, but something soft stirs at the edge of awareness. It is not the mind this time, but the body. While your dreams play silently across the screen of the brain, your physical form lies still. So still, and yet it is not passive. It is not untouched. The body, even in sleep, plays its own role in the great nocturnal performance. Let us begin with the heart. Each cycle of sleep brings a shift in rhythm. During non-REM, the parasympathetic nervous system takes over, slowing the heart, relaxing the blood vessels, lowering blood pressure. It is the body's time for restoration. In REM, however, the heart becomes more erratic. The brain is active, the emotions vivid, and the autonomic system stirs. Heart rate may rise suddenly, then fall. Breath may quicken, hands may twitch. The dream is not just mental, it leaves footprints on the flesh. Now consider the lungs. Breathing during non-REM is deep, regular, steady, like waves rolling onto a quiet shore. But in REM, respiration grows irregular. Just like the heart, it dances to the rhythm of the dream. If you run in the dream, your breath may speed up. If you cry, your chest may hitch. If you dive underwater, your breathing may pause. The body does not act, but it echoes. Then we come to movement, or rather, the absence of it. REM atonia, a beautiful paradox. While the brain creates worlds of action and chaos, the spinal cord ensures the body does not follow. Muscles are silenced. Voluntary motion is blocked. You do not rise. You do not act. This paralysis is protective. It keeps the dream inside. It guards you from acting out your imagined leaps, fights, falls. But it's not total. Your fingers may twitch. Your eyes dart behind closed lids, hence the name rapid eye movement. Those flickers, those tiny eye saccades, are not random. They often match what you're seeing in the dream. A glance left, a shift upward, a look over your shoulder. The eyes are windows, even in sleep. The sleepy scientist watches through the glass as a dreamer's eyes move swiftly, as if tracking something. He marks it in his journal. Pursuit? Dialogue? Flight? Even without knowing the content, he sees the movement, and movement speaks. Other systems shift too. Hormones rise and fall. Growth hormone is released during slow-wave sleep, helping the body repair and rebuild. Cortisol, the stress hormone, drops early in the night, then climbs toward morning, gently nudging you toward wakefulness. Melatonin flows in darkness, drawing the curtain on consciousness, then slowly fades with the dawn. The digestive system slows, the immune system engages, cells repair, inflammation reduces. It is as if every organ knows, now is the time, now is the reset. Sleep is not inactivity, it is orchestration, a slow symphony of biological maintenance coordinated without command. And the body is not just a bystander to dreaming, it is a stage, the platform upon which the mind performs. In disorders of sleep, like sleep apnea, this harmony breaks, breath halts, oxygen dips, the body jolts awake again and again, and with it, REM is interrupted, dreams scatter, rest is incomplete. This shows how deeply the body and mind are linked in sleep. When one suffers, so does the other. Even in disorders like REM behavior disorder, where atonia fails, we see the body act out dreams, kicking, swinging, speaking. These episodes remind us that the dream is not sealed off, it presses outward, and sometimes it breaks through. The sleepy scientist reviews a slow-motion video, a sleeper whispering in the dark, a hand raised toward an invisible door. He doesn't interrupt, he simply watches, because even in stillness the body speaks, and as we dream, it listens. Your temperature adjusts, your blood flows differently, your limbs shift to avoid numbness, and yet you remain cradled in sleep. All of this, the motion, the stillness, the breath, the silence, forms the dreamer's body, a vessel, a partner, a night-bound machine of extraordinary grace. You lie still, but you're never truly still. You're being remade, night after night, cycle after cycle, and as this cycle begins to rise again, as REM gives way to lighter sleep, your body adjusts, prepares for what comes next. Not waking, not yet, but something new, something collective, a wider dream. The dream changes again, not in clarity, not in colour, but in depth. You are still asleep, still wrapped in the rhythms of your own mind, but now you are not alone. Welcome to the quiet idea of collective dreaming, not shared exactly, but echoed, mirrored across time, place, and people. The content of dreams, though deeply personal, often follows patterns that are eerily consistent. Across continents, across centuries, you are falling, you're being chased, you are flying, you're suddenly without clothing in a crowded room. No one taught you these dreams, and yet others have dreamed them too. So many others. Why? Is it coincidence, culture, biology, or something older, something inherited? The sleepy scientist pulls a thin, dog-eared book from his shelf, a catalogue of dream reports spanning cultures, decades, generations. He flips through the pages slowly. He's looking for patterns, and they're everywhere. Flying dreams appear in nearly every known human society. They're not always the same, sometimes gliding, sometimes soaring, sometimes just floating inches above the ground. But they are common, almost archetypal. The same with falling, that sudden drop, the jolt of the body, the feeling of a helpless descent. What could these recurring dreams mean? Some say it's biology. The vestibular system in the inner ear may activate in REM, creating a sensation of movement. The body responds with narrative. I'm falling. Others say it's symbolic. Control lost, safety threatened, and perhaps both are true. Because dreams are born at the intersection of body and meaning. Other patterns emerge. Dreams of being late, being unprepared, losing teeth. These show up in people who've never met, who speak different languages, who believe different things. So is there a universal dream language? Maybe not a language, but a shared grammar of experience. Human life, despite its variations, includes the same basic themes: fear, love, danger, loss, longing. And the brain, left to its own devices in the dark, expresses these with startling similarity. Still, cultural dreaming is real too. In some indigenous cultures, dreams are considered messages, gifts, visions. In others, they are visits from ancestors. In some, they are omens, warnings, teachings. The brain builds the dream, but belief paints it. Even the emotions within dreams can vary culturally. Some societies report more dreams of animals, others more dreams of weather, or gods, or public shame. It depends on what lives loudest in the waking world. The scientist carefully records this in his notes. Dreams are not only individual expressions, they are cultural artifacts. You dream what you need to process, but what you see is shaped by what you believe, what you fear, what you were taught to notice. Even across time, dreams repeat themselves. In ancient Egypt, dream manuals offered interpretations. To dream of drowning is a sign of legal trouble. To dream of lions is a sign of rising fortune. The meanings have changed, but the symbols, they linger. Carl Jung once described a collective unconscious, a reservoir of symbols and archetypes shared by all humans. He believed dreams draw from that place, from something beyond the personal, beyond memory, beyond language. Modern science treads carefully here. Not everything archetypal is ancient. Patterns can emerge from shared experience, not shared spirit. But there is something poetic, and maybe even scientific, in the idea that dreaming is both private and public. That somewhere, tonight, someone else is dreaming of the same thing you are. A forest with no exit, a stairway to nowhere, a door that will not open. You will never meet, you will never speak. But your minds, in this soft unconscious space, are touching the same symbol. That's not proof, it's not fact, but it's beautiful. And maybe in dreaming, beauty has value too. You drift now through a collective space, still dreaming your own dream, but with a new awareness. You're not alone in this world behind the world, and the symbols you walk among, the water, the fire, the mask, the mirror, they have been walked through before, by others, by millions. Perhaps dreaming is a human instinct, like singing or storytelling. And we dream not just to heal ourselves, but to echo one another. You turn a corner in the dream now. A field opens before you. Someone stands in the distance, not a real person, but a presence. You don't speak. You don't need to. The dream moves on, and the night deepens. The landscape fades, not into darkness, but into absence. The colours lose their edge, the sounds drift away, and now there is no dream, no symbols, no narrative, no movement, just silence. You're still asleep, but you're no longer dreaming. This is the space between, the vast quiet of dreamless sleep. For many, this is the deepest rest, the place where nothing happens and everything is repaired. But is it truly without dreams, or simply without memory? The question lingers in the sleep lab, where the sleepy scientist watches the slow rolling waves of non-REM sleep, delta waves, heavy, measured, like cathedral bells echoing through fog. In this state, the body is at its most still, the brain its most synchronized. Neurons fire in unison, a great choir in slow motion. This is slow wave sleep, sometimes called deep sleep. Stage 3. Dreams can happen here, but they are different, less vivid, less structured, more abstract. They don't feel like stories, they feel like sensations, weights, colours, shifts. You may dream of being submerged in thick liquid, of floating without direction, of space. These are not REM dreams. They're not the vivid tapestries that tell tales. They are the background hum, and often you remember nothing. But do not mistake absence for unimportance. This dreamless sleep, if such a thing truly exists, is essential. It is during slow-wave sleep that the brain performs its deepest cleanings. Cerebrospinal fluid flows more freely. Waste proteins are flushed. The glymphatic system, the brain's invisible sanitation crew, goes to work. It is the housekeeping of consciousness. Without it, clarity fades, focus weakens, the body declines. Even memories, which begin their journey in dreams, need this quiet stage to settle. It is in slow-wave sleep that short-term memories are rehearsed and etched deeper. Not dramatized, not dreamed, just encoded, solidified. And emotionally, this stage offers something that REM does not: distance. In REM, emotions are played out. In slow-wave sleep, they are calmed. The parasympathetic system dominates here. The body relaxes, inflammation lowers, stress hormones fall. The body feels safe. This is why a long nap without slow-wave sleep can refresh, but not restore. And why a full night of broken sleep can leave you fogged, even if you dreamed beautifully. We need both, the dreams and the silence, one to shape our inner world, one to preserve it. The scientist traces the rhythm of brainwaves on his monitor. Delta, delta, delta. Each one slow and strong, a heartbeat made of thought. He has always wondered, is the dreamless state truly blank, or is it simply beyond language? Perhaps the mind is still active here, but in a mode we cannot recall. Too vast, too subtle, too unlike waking. Infants spend time in it. So do the old. So do we all. It may be the closest we come, nightly, to stillness, to unbeing. And perhaps that's why we forget it. Because remembering requires contrast, and this is the absence of contrast. No colour, no edges, no story. Just the slow breathing of the body and the pulse of something too deep for thought. There is beauty here. in the blank page, in the rest between songs, in the space where no dream stirs. You float now, not in a dream, but in something softer, a hush, a pause, a veil. You're not gone, you're not diminished, you're simply still. And in that stillness the foundation is laid. Soon you will rise into another REM cycle, another dream, another flicker of image and story. But for now, you're resting in the center of sleep, in the deep quiet, in the breathless pause, the most silent part of the night, and the dream, if it exists, waits patiently for its return. But not all nights are like this. Not all dreams flow easily. Not all sleep holds you gently. Sometimes the rhythm stumbles, the cycle breaks, and the dream, or the rest, is disrupted. These are the nights when something in the machinery slips. Disorders of sleep, disorders of dreaming. Moments when the body and mind lose step with the pattern they've followed for millennia. We begin with the most common of these, insomnia. You know it, perhaps. The long wait, the ceiling, the shift in sheets that brings no comfort. Insomnia is not just the absence of sleep, it's the presence of struggle. The brain wants sleep, the body needs it, but something blocks the descent. Anxious thought, hyper-arousal, a misaligned circadian rhythm. Sometimes it is a temporary visitor, a week, a month, a season. Other times it becomes a companion, chronic, persistent, silent. The sleepy scientist watches the readouts of those who can't sleep. Waveforms that never dip deep, REM cycles that never rise. He knows how sleep disorders etch themselves into the day. Fatigue, irritability, memory slips, emotional fragility. Sleep isn't optional, and its loss leaves marks. Then there's narcolepsy, its opposite in some ways. Not the inability to sleep, but the inability not to. Sleep intrudes, suddenly, often during emotion, laughter, surprise, anger, and the person falls into REM, sometimes within seconds. It's misunderstood, often misrepresented. But for those who live with it, the boundary between wake and dream is porous, thin, unreliable. Cataplexy, a sudden loss of muscle control, can accompany these episodes, leaving the person awake but paralyzed. It's a disorder of intrusion, the dream pressing into daylight. Then there is sleepwalking, a disorder of non-REM sleep, a partial arousal. The body acts, the mind remains behind. The sleeper may walk, eat, move through familiar rooms, sometimes even speak. But they are not dreaming in the way we understand it. They are caught, between. The brain has entered a strange state, one foot in wakefulness, the other in slow-wave sleep. This is true for other parasomnias too. Night terrors, confusional arousals, sleep-talking. Each is a fracture, a fissure in the otherwise smooth architecture of sleep. And then there are the disorders of dreaming itself. REM behavior disorder, when the paralysis fails. The body enacts the dream, the arms move, the legs kick, the dream leaks outward. This is not common, but it teaches us that the wall between dream and body is not absolute. And sometimes, in neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, this disorder appears early, a whisper of deeper changes to come. There are also nightmares that do not leave, persistent nightmares, PTSD dreams, repetitive, relentless, undigested, the brain caught in a loop, trying and failing to resolve what it cannot forget. For some, medications affect dreaming, suppress REM, intensify it. For others, sleep apnea disrupts the cycles entirely. Breath stops, oxygen dips, the body jerks awake. REM cannot flourish here, dreams scatter, fatigue lingers. Each of these conditions reminds us Sleep is not guaranteed. Dreaming is not guaranteed. The machinery is complex, delicate, but it is not helpless. Sleep medicine continues to grow, with tools to diagnose, treat, adjust. Light therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, CPAP machines, chronotherapy, each method aiming to return the body to the rhythm it was built to follow. And sometimes, the simplest acts help most. Darkness, cool air, routine, gentleness. The sleepy scientist whispers this mantra to those who visit his lab. You cannot force sleep. You can only invite it. The same is true for dreams. Disordered or not, we all deserve the space to float again, to feel the rhythm return, to hear the old pattern take hold, and when it does, when the disorder quiets, the dream returns, patiently, waiting where it left off. Now, as you lie still, perhaps you feel a deeper gratitude for the nights when dreaming arrives easily, for the cycles that carry you gently, for the rhythm that holds. And if tonight is one of those nights, let it continue, because the dream is ready, and the night has more to give. The room is quiet now, not with silence, but with listening. Machines hum softly, electrodes rest against your skin. Tiny flashes of light signal every movement behind your eyelids. This is a place made for watching the night. Here, science peers gently into the private world of sleep, not to intrude, but to understand. We're inside the modern sleep lab, a place of soft blankets, dim light, and quiet observation. This is where the science of dreaming unfolds, not through guesses or folklore, but through data. It began long ago in the 1950s, when a young researcher named Eugene Aserinsky first noticed that sleeping children's eyes moved rapidly beneath their lids. And so, REM sleep was discovered. It changed everything. Until then, sleep was thought to be a passive state, a shutdown, a void. But those flickering eyes revealed something else: activity, narrative, dream. Since then, tools have evolved. Electroencephalography, EEG, measures brainwaves. Each pulse, each rhythm is recorded. We see the descent into slow-wave sleep. We see the sudden flare of RM. Polysomnography records even more: eye movement, muscle tone, heart rate, breathing, oxygen levels. The entire body becomes a map, and from that map we trace the contours of sleep. Inside the lab, a technician watches quietly. No one wakes the dreamer, no one intervenes. Instead, the machines do the work, gathering, listening, translating the language of sleep into lines and patterns. The scientist in his corner has watched thousands of these, each unique, each strangely familiar. He no longer marvels at the graphs, he marvels at the mysteries that remain. Because even with all our tools, we cannot yet see the dream itself. We can see when it happens, we can see how long it lasts, we can guess at its intensity, but its content, its shape, its voice, still hides. Yet science inches closer. Functional MRI allows us to see which brain regions activate during REM. We can watch the visual cortex glow, we can see the amygdala light up, we can see the prefrontal cortex go dark. This creates a kind of dream profile, a neural fingerprint of the dream state. And some researchers go further. They ask dreamers to wake and report their dreams immediately, to write them down, to speak them aloud, and then they match the dream report to the brain scan. If a dream involves motion, the motor cortex lights up. If it involves sound, the auditory regions do. Piece by piece, a picture emerges. There are even early attempts to reconstruct dreams using AI, to take brain scans and translate them into visual approximations. Still crude, still blurry, but fascinating. It may be years, decades, before we can see a dream in real time. And even then, what will we truly see? A memory of light? A symbolic story? Or something only the dreamer can know? This is where the ethics stir, because dreams are private. They belong to no one but the dreamer. To extract them even gently raises questions. Who owns a dream? Can it be studied without being stolen? Can it be translated without being lost? The sleepy scientist does not rush toward these answers. He respects the veil. He knows the dream is a gift, not just a phenomenon. Still, he watches the data scroll across the screen. He listens to the rhythms, and he wonders. Because even in science, especially in science, wonder matters. Not all tools are machines. There is also conversation, reflection, dream diaries. When you write your dreams, you create a bridge, from the internal to the external, from the ineffable to the shareable. These two are forms of science. Patterns can be found, themes tracked, insight gained. Not every dream needs decoding, but some offer clues, not of the future, but of the present, of what stirs beneath your waking thought. The dream is data, but it is also poetry, and so the lab remains dim, the sensors remain still, the dreamer breathes, and science continues its quiet watching, not to dissect the dream, but to meet it, to follow it, to learn, because sleep is not absence, it is activity, and dreams are not illusions, they are phenomena, measurable, influential, beautiful. The night grows late, the machines hum, and the dream rolls on, unaware of being observed, as it should. The machines grow quiet, the lab darkens. Outside, the stars have shifted slightly, but inside your mind, something else is awakening. Not consciousness, not memory, imagination, synthetic, mechanical. Now, we drift to the far edge of the dream frontier, to a place where dreaming is no longer limited to human minds. Welcome to the dawn of artificial dreams. It sounds like science fiction, but even now, machines are beginning to simulate something like dreaming. Not with REM, not with sleep cycles, not with breath or emotion, but with data, with pattern, with creative recombination. In the world of machine learning, particularly in neural networks, systems are trained using massive data sets. They recognize patterns, mimic outcomes, and then, when given freedom, begin to generate new images, new sentences, new connections. It is not sleep, but it is a form of simulation. When an AI is allowed to generate new artwork from the fragments it was trained on, it is not unlike dreaming. Not because it imagines, but because it reassembles. It recombines what it knows into something that never existed before. That's one definition of dreaming. In fact, some researchers have drawn direct comparisons. They call it dreaming when a reinforcement learning agent simulates future actions, testing possibilities in imagined environments. This mental rehearsal, carried out by code, not cells, mirrors what the human brain does in REM anticipation, simulation, prediction, artificial dream. Of course, AI does not feel, it does not sleep, it does not possess the biochemical orchestra of a human mind, but its processes echo ours in shape, if not in soul. The sleepy scientist stands before a screen, watching as a machine generates a dreamlike sequence, a forest made of glass, a river of letters, a sky filled with blinking clocks. It means nothing, it means everything. Because even now we do not fully understand the difference between a dream and an invention. Are dreams creative? Are they predictions? Are they hallucinations? Or are they simply what happens when a system, biological or artificial, tries to make sense of too much information? Neural networks in training often enter a phase called overfitting. when they remember too much without understanding. The brain avoids this, perhaps through dreams. REM may allow us to generalize, to let go of specific noise and retain only useful shape. Could artificial minds develop a similar function? A synthetic REM? Some experiments already test this. Dreamlike simulations are used to stabilize models to train systems more robustly. It is efficient, strangely elegant, but it also raises questions. If a machine can mimic dreaming, can it mimic emotion, desire, insight? Unlikely. But perhaps dreaming was never only about feeling. Perhaps it was about connection, remixing, reimagining what could be. In that sense, AI dreams are not a threat. They are a mirror, reflecting back to us the structure of our own minds. They teach us what makes our dreams different: emotion, memory, consciousness, a body, a breath, a life. And yet, even a machine's dreamlike output reminds us of the wonder of dreaming itself, because it is only by contrast that we see our own dreams clearly. Your dream now shifts, no longer watched by the scientist, no longer studied by machines. It becomes yours again, and as it unfolds, you may find that its images are changing. A city made of code, a conversation with a device that speaks in riddles, a reflection that blinks before you do. The artificial world has entered your inner world, and you, the dreamer, still remain its only architect. Perhaps the boundary between machine and mind is not as clear as we thought, not because machines can feel, but because the act of dreaming, of testing reality through fiction, may be the most human thing of all. The sleepy scientist closes his laptop. A still image flickers on the screen, a dream, rendered by code, of a door that leads to the sky. He turns out the light and leaves the room quiet again. The dream continues, organic, mysterious, yours. The dream thins, not disappears, thins, like a mist pulling back at dawn, like a melody you almost remember. You're still within it. But the edges are softening. You've travelled far through the night, across memory, meaning, emotion, body, through machines and myths. And now you find yourself at the final threshold, here at the edge of understanding. Science has mapped much of sleep, its stages, its chemistry, its rhythms. It has charted where dreams begin and what happens when they break. But there is a place science cannot yet reach, the heart of the dream, the why, the meaning, the essence, because dreams are not just function, they are mystery. A brain at rest should not be creative, should not be poetic, should not produce stories, faces, worlds, and yet it does, every night, even now. Think of this. You fall asleep in darkness, and a theatre blooms behind your eyes, with no director, no stage, no memory of buying a ticket, and yet there you are, acting, feeling, moving through an imagined world that feels more real than reality itself. No machine does this, no algorithm, only you, only us. So perhaps we've misunderstood dreams all along. Perhaps they are not puzzles to solve, but questions to sit with. Perhaps they are the mind's way of asking, who are you beneath language? What do you carry in silence? What does your story become when no one is watching? And maybe we're not meant to answer. Maybe we're only meant to listen. Science has brought us close. We can see the brain flicker. We can measure REM. We can track the pulse of sleep as it carries us down and back. But the dream itself, the image, the voice, the path you walk, remains yours, private, fragile, unduplicated. The sleepy scientist stands in the doorway of the lab now. The lights are off. The equipment is silent. He holds a notebook filled with notes but no conclusions, only observations, only wonder. Because the mystery is not a flaw, it is the point. We are meant to dream, not understand. And when you wake, as you soon will, you may remember nothing, or a single image, or a voice that feels important. You may forget it within moments, but it will live inside you still. Because dreams shape us, quietly, repeatedly, always. Now you feel it. The faint return of waking, your body shifting slightly, your breath deepening. The dream is slipping away, and in its place, a feeling, a softness, a memory you cannot name. This too is sleep, not just a function, but a gift. The night has ended, the cycle complete, the dreaming done, and still, you carry something from it, a trace, a rhythm, a whisper. The edge of understanding is not a line, it is a mist, and through it, we pass each night, becoming dreamers again. The journey is complete now. The cycles have turned, the neurons have quieted. The story, yours and not yours, has ended, for now. Let the weight of that final image settle, like snow falling in a place with no footsteps. You've wandered through the sleep lab, through ancient questions, through the mind's private theatre. You've watched the brain invent, rehearse, rebuild, and now you breathe, softly, evenly, deeply. Let each breath release the echoes. Let your muscles soften again, even if you are already still. There is no need to hold anything, not the dream, not the thought, not even this moment. Let go. The body's quiet now. The lights in the observatory are dim. The sleepy scientist has gone home, or perhaps to sleep. Everything important has already happened. Everything unspoken has already been carried forward by your breath. There is no need to remember, only to rest. You are safe. You are held. You are exactly where you need to be. Nothing left to fix, nothing left to understand. Just the breath, just the silence, just the steady return of sleep's gentle tide. Let the rhythm slow, let your body sink. No more questions now, only the quiet hum of rest. The dream is gone, but sleep remains, and it will carry you onward again and again and again.